Welcome back to the Buddhist Bookshelf YouTube channel. Today, we will reading the Heart Sutra Part 2. Prajñāpāramitā Hṛdaya Sūtra. Translated by Tripitaka Master Xuanzang of the Tang Dynasty with commentary by Grandmaster Tan Su. Of the 7 known translations of the Heart Sutra, the one by the Tripitaka Master Xuanzang, 664 CE, is the most popular. Tripitaka is a Sanskrit term designating the whole Buddhist canon, which consists of 3 sections. 1. The Sutras, which are the original texts of the Buddha Dharma. 2. The Vinaya, or rules of discipline, and 3. The Sastras, or commentaries, related to theory and practice, as well as to the teachings in relation to non-Buddhist argument. Dharma Master Xuanzang understood the Tripitaka thoroughly, and, therefore, the title of Tripitaka Master was bestowed upon him. He did not study canonical texts primarily for personal satisfaction, his purpose was to make them available to others, and he acted in compliance with a direct order from the emperor. Dharma Master Xuanzang was a very famous sage in the Tang dynasty. The description of the arduous way by which he obtained the scriptures is known to every family and household, and there is no need to delve into it at this time. The Prajna literature is very extensive, it covers approximately 20 years of the Buddha's teaching career. The 7 translations of the sutra display minor differences, but the essential meaning was respected in each case. There is no major difference among them. According to Tripitaka Master Kumarajiva's translation, this sutra was spoken by the Buddha. Every translation of the Heart Sutra includes a commentary which consists of 3 parts. 1. The reason for the sutra, 2. The method used to convey the meaning, 3. The sutra's history. The Heart Sutra was composed of excerpts from the Prajñāpāramitā texts, and simple words were carefully employed to convey profound meanings. Although the Chinese version contains only 260 single characters, it nevertheless embodies the entire Prajna literature in all its depth and subtlety. As to the reason for this sutra, we only need to look at the method used to put the text together to realize that the Bodhisattva of Avalokitesvara was chosen as a model for the rest of us, and that the sutra was spoken by the Buddha. To understand it thoroughly is to understand all of the Prajna literature. We are not going to address the sutra's history at this time. When the Bodhisattva of Avalokitesvara. The opening words introduce the one practicing Dharma. The Prajna teachings were spoken by the Buddha during the 4th stage, his purpose being to guide those practicing what later became the approach of the Theravadins toward the practice of Mahayana Dharma. Whoever practices according to the lesser vehicle practices virtuous conduct and Dharma primarily to benefit oneself. The Mahayana practice, on the other hand, is aimed to benefit both oneself and others. To liberate all sentient beings implies concern for the well-being of all people. Bodhisattva of Avalokitesvara was chosen to demonstrate to the persons of the lesser vehicle mentality the full dimension of the Mahayana doctrines. The name of Avalokitesvara lends itself to several interpretations. Chinese translation i.e., Guanzai's I, means the attainment of the Bodhisattva stage and the causal ground for practicing Dharma. Why did we, the Chinese, choose to call the Bodhisattva Guanzai's I? Because he attained the fruition of the path. Visualizing and contemplating the name, we come to understand its meaning. Guan means to observe and to illuminate. The one who practices the Bodhisattva path not only illuminates his or her own mind but the world as well, and practicing in this manner, one can be sure of obtaining liberation. That is what Guanzai's I means. What is the meaning of Zai's I? The one who is able to halt the 2 kinds of birth and death and the 5 fundamental conditions of the passions and delusions can be called Zai's I. To observe one's own self is to discover body and mind bound by the 5 skandhas and the 6 organs, with their corresponding 6 kinds of data. We are not free, and, therefore, not Zai's I. The name of Avalokitesvara comes from the ground causes of the Bodhisattva's Dharma practice while on an island, perceiving the sounds of the world, rooted in time as they are, rising and falling with the ebb and flow of the ocean. From the sound of the tide rising and falling, the Bodhisattva attained enlightenment, perfectly and completely comprehending the Dharma of birth and non-birth. Someone asked how and why the Bodhisattva attained the Tao and became enlightened by observing the ebb tide. The Bodhisattva, while practicing by the sea, contemplated the sound as it increased, decreased, and then came to a full stop, occurring simultaneously with the ebb tide. He pondered the root of all causes and finally attained enlightenment by understanding that all existence is subject to birth and death and, therefore, is impermanent. However, the hearing itself is timeless, hence, it is beyond birth and death. Those without practice can hear, but they do not listen. While hearing the sounds, they only think of the outside. However, although the sound of tide has birth and death, the nature of hearing does not. And why not? Because even when the sound of tide stops, our capacity for, or nature of, hearing does not. We can still hear the wind in the branches of a tree, the songs of birds and the shrill sound of the cicadas. Had our capacity for hearing vanished with the sound, we should not be able to hear ever again. Even when all is quiet late at night, we are aware of silence or non-sound because of our capacity for hearing. In reality, there are two kinds of hearing. One comes and goes in response to stimulation, the other functions independently of it. Thus, we can safely say that although sounds have birth and death, the hearing capacity does not. It actually never vanishes. All existence, including dharmas, is impermanent and, therefore, subject to birth and death just like magic, like bubbles or like shadows. The nature of hearing, on the other hand, can never be destroyed. In this manner, we come to know the bright and accomplished nature of hearing. Our mind accords with whatever we observe. If we observe birth and death, there is birth and death, and if we observe non-birth and non-death, there is no birth and no death. All things are produced by the mind, they are completed through contemplation. Everyone has a mind and, consequently, a potential to formulate the world according to his or her own intentions, but without effort one will not succeed. Nature is the substance, mind, the function. The function never separates from substance, nor the substance from the function. Function and substance, though separate, are causally connected. Nature governs the mind, and the mind is nature's function, they mesh. Although both retain their own character, they are inseparable. Dharma practice can start right at this point. One needs only to understand one's mind, see one's true nature, and, following that, attain the Tao. The Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara practice makes one listen to and be mindful of one's own nature and, by means of listening, attain the wonderful function. Listening to one's own nature has no boundaries and it can accommodate all sentient beings while saving them. We worldlings only react to or become concerned about what we construe to be external or outside sound. Negligent of our true nature, we hardly ever try to listen to it and our hearing is partial as a result of it. However, when we listen to our own nature, our listening is not delimited by time. Perceiving one's nature thus, one's listening is complete and continual, and one's joy and happiness are permanent. When phonetically transliterated into Chinese, the Sanskrit word bodhisattva produces two characters. Pusar bo sa. Bodhi, pu or bo in Chinese, means the perfect knowledge or wisdom by which a person becomes a Buddha. Sattva, satu in Chinese, stands for an enlightened and enlightening being, which is to say that a person has already enlightened his or her own nature by freeing himself or herself from birth and death and helps other sentient beings to do likewise. Worldlings, however, hold on to feelings and disregard or oppose the doctrine. Confusion and frustration take them through the samsaric suffering of the cycle of existence. To perceive one's self-nature by listening is the bodhisattva's way out of the round of birth and death. The first line of the sutra, then, informs us that Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara is the appointed practice leader of the Prajna assembly. He is going to teach us how to follow his dharma practice and establish the mindfulness of listening to our self-nature. Was coursing in the deep Prajñāpāramitā. This line specifies the dharma of the bodhisattva practice. Coursing and deep relate to its quality. At one time, 1,255 bhikkhus attained the four fruits of the arhat. They practiced the dharma of the lesser vehicle, which leads to the end of their birth and death allotment. What is the birth and death allotment? It means that every sentient being's body is merely a portion or a part, whether short, long, or of middle length, the life of a sentient being must end. One round of birth and death is referred to as an allotment. Whoever practices the dharma of the lesser vehicle will have the conversion into birth and death even after he or she has come to the end of the individual allotment of birth and death. What is the conversion into birth and death? Our distorted thought is at the root of our failure to escape from the cycle of birth and death. One of the recognized features of thought is to vibrate, quiver and to move on, and the pattern and its movement normally neither change nor become suspended as long as there is consciousness. Every thought has its beginning, its duration and its end. Due to feeling, conception, volition and consciousness, every thought has its conversion into birth and death. The activity is never suspended and, thus, the conversion into birth and death takes place, generated by feeling, conception, volition and consciousness. Every rise and fall of delusive thought marks this conversion into birth and death. If our dharma practice does not take us back to truth, we are not going to be able to end the conversion into birth and death, and that would hinder us from discerning the Buddha's point of view. To practice dharma correctly, one should endeavor to liberate one's thought from delusion. The attainment and practice of truth are the means to the attainment of prajna. Without these, how can we say we are coursing in the deep Prajñāpāramitā? To end the samsaric cycle but not the conversion of thoughts into birth and death is a wisdom that is shallow. The Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara attained truth, thereby bringing the two kinds of birth and death to a complete halt. This, then, is the real deep prajna, the awe-inspiring wisdom. It is and has to be beyond discriminating knowledge, since discrimination is one of the manifestations of duality, or birth and death. Paramita is a Sanskrit term meaning virtue perfected to the level of transcendence. In the context of Buddhist practice, it means to traverse the sea of samsara, or the sea of birth and death, and reach nirvana. The words was coursing in the deep Prajñāpāramitā attest to the Bodhisattva practice of all three kinds of wisdom, i.e., listening, thinking and practice, thus, he attained the radiant wisdom, or the ultimate. This clause, then, offers a description of correct Dharma practice, and its purpose is to provide guidance for the assembly, including those who have attained partial understanding and insight. Be perceived that all five skandhas are empty. During his practice of contemplation and illumination, the Bodhisattva of Avalokitesvara attained the truth. By means of his minutely subtle Dharma practice, he penetrated the five skandhas, perceiving them as empty. The five skandhas, namely, form, feeling, conception, volition and consciousness, continually provide five occasions for craving and clinging. Two types of craving and clinging characterize the human mind. Craving and clinging to form and craving and clinging to mind. Clinging to form is the domain of the form skandha. The remaining four skandhas constitute the domain of the mind, and the clinging to mind is generated in those four realms. All our grasping, manifested in our attachments and aversions, is generated and developed due to the activity of these four skandhas. Craving and clinging emerge at birth, and the Buddha Dharma aims to sever them. The initial clinging is ego-bound. Ego is the anchor of our volition to grasp and to possess, the root of our attachments and aversions and, via these, the very root of our suffering. Clinging to the body as the true self begins to manifest in early childhood. Normally, the six organs produce the six types of data, six kinds of consciousness, and the four mind skandhas along with them, jointly these constitute the delusory ego. Craving and clinging are spontaneous at birth, for, at that time, the ego arises simultaneously with the form skandha. The rest of our existence is built up by our countless ego-affirming acts involving all the skandhas, but most prominently the skandha of feeling. Its domain contains pleasant, unpleasant, neutral or indifferent types of feelings. The body depends on the mind to be provided with pleasant occasions and to be protected from discomfort. There must be thinking, i.e., conception followed by action, and action means volition. They, in turn, require established bases of knowledge, and that is the role of the consciousness skandha. Children are sent to school to learn and to acquire knowledge that prepares them for the future. When there is sufficient knowledge, there is action, which is invariably preceded by some kind of thinking, such as planning, imagining, remembering, etc. The body then receives the support it needs. Thereupon, ego-grasping begins, and confusion is generated by the five skandhas as the ego notion imposes itself on the process of experience. Once it has become clear beyond any doubt that this present body is not really the self, that one can merely say mine or my body, all delusion regarding the five skandhas is then broken off, and ignorance along with it. What a pity that worldlings get so deeply confused and completely fail to understand this brilliant doctrine. Grasping the skandhas and the ego notion, they twist the data to fit their own picture of how reality should be. Actually, however, the body is not the self. Rather, it is like a house that I might call mine all right, but to consider it to be myself would be a ridiculous error. In the same way, I can't correctly say, this body is myself, but I can accurately say, this body is mine. What, then, is the real self? Our original nature is our real self. It depends on the body only temporarily, and the body is no different from a house. A house is completed and then gradually deteriorates. Similarly, the body has birth and death and the period between them. Our true nature, real self, on the other hand, has neither birth nor death. It is enduring and unchanging. The teaching of real self and of illusory ego is basic to all Buddha Dharma. When it is understood, clinging is easily broken off. The teaching related to the five skandhas is referred to as the Dharma of assemblage. Skandha is a Sanskrit term used by the Buddha in reference to the five components of the so-called human entity. A skandha is a constituent of personality, and it also means accumulation in the sense that we constantly accumulate good and bad in our minds. The Dharma of the five skandhas is comparable to five kinds of material, or elements. The mountains, the rivers and the entire universe, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the three periods, even the six realms of existence. And the four worthies all are produced solely by the five skandhas. Who are the four worthies? They are as follows. 1. The Arhat of Theravada. 2. The Pratyeka Buddha of the middle vehicle. 3. The Bodhisattva of Mahayana. And 4. The Buddha, the ultimate fruit of the path. What are the six realms of existence? 3 are good and 3 are evil. Devas, human beings, and asuras inhabit the 3 good realms. Animals, hungry ghosts and hell-dwellers belong to the 3 evil realms. It does not make any difference mundane or supramundane, they are all produced and completed by the 5 skandhas. However, by taking the right path, the ultimate path, one may become an Arhat, a Pratyeka Buddha, a Bodhisattva or a Buddha. The good action can be good in 3 different ways, likewise, an evil action can be evil in 3 ways. Worldlings, confused because not knowing or knowing wrongly, get carried away and lose control over their actions, then evil in the world increases, giving rise to the 5 turbidities. There is the turbidity of vikalpa and decay, the turbidity of view, the turbidity of the passions, the turbidity of living beings, and the turbidity of life, the result of the turbidity of living beings. Turbidity means turmoil. The turmoil of vikalpa and decay is the product of the form skandha, whereby sentient beings in the saha world grasp former material, the body, and misconstrue this as the true self, not realizing that all dharmas are produced by the mind and give rise to the skandha of feeling. The egocentric bias goes hand in hand with the craving for gratification of the senses or the body, and the result is the turbidity of view. The turbidity of the passions is generated by the feeling skandha. Seeking gratification of the senses brings greed in its wake, manifesting as the desire for wealth and personal gain, and the subsequent strife that accompanies it. Sooner or later, sound ethics are abandoned, and the volition to grasp and to possess is given free rein. At this point, worldlings become totally engulfed in self-delusion, generating an unspeakable number of defilements. The turbidity of the passions comprises family defilements, societal defilements, national defilements and world defilements. Also, while they are alive, human beings are the victims of turbidity in the realm of volition, because the egocentric bias engenders the cyclic pattern of existence, perpetuating itself until the end of time. However, time is moving on, and no matter how much of it we might have, we shall die in the end. The confusion of worldlings regarding the real self or true self is the turbidity of living beings. This turbidity of life is caused by the consciousness skandha. The turbidity of living beings will eventually produce a decrease in the lifespan as well as the size of each individual body. The Agamas speak of a certain stage in the history of mankind when the lifespan was 84,000 years and the average individual's height was 160 feet. However, there came about a gradual decrease in both the lifespan and the height. Presently, to live 70 or 80 years is considered long life and the average height of people is 5 to 6 feet. Somewhere in the very distant future, claims the ancient text, the lifespan of human beings will last 10 years and the average height will be close to 3 feet. That will be the time of upheavals and disasters of all kinds. Actions considered sound today may be viewed as unskillful, even unethical, tomorrow as a result of the ego inserting itself into the field of perception. Countless defilements develop when skillful or beneficial actions are re-evaluated and come to be viewed as lacking in expediency and when the Buddha Dharma is dismissed as irrelevant. Confusion resulting from ignorance is conducive to a lifestyle that has a detrimental effect on both the lifespan and the condition of the body. Turbidity first corrupts, then, sooner or later, takes over. Thus, worldlings need to generate compassion for this declining world, resolved to uphold at least the basic code of ethics and, perhaps, to study the Buddha Dharma. Furthermore, they should refrain from taking the life of any living being and be mindful of their actions, which should be skillful and cause no harm to others. If that is accomplished, there may still be time to save this world. To say it in a few words, the 5 turbidities are completely within the realm of the 5 skandhas. The skandhas combined constitute the basis of all dharmas, of all sentient beings in the 10 directions, and of all worlds in all universes. The skandhas are, furthermore, the substance of the incandescent true existence and, at the same time, the transcendental void, or emptiness. The relation of true existence to transcendental emptiness will be discussed later. Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, relying on his luminous wisdom, perceived that all 5 skandhas are empty. In other words, the Bodhisattva deeply practiced the Prajñāpāramitā, i.e., the root of ultimate reality, and attained the supreme Tao, realizing that the skandhas are empty of self. To arrive at that stage is enlightenment, the state completely clear of any turbidity whatsoever. From then on, all dharmas are understood as being identical with one's true nature. When that level is attained, the mind comprehends the universe as the self and the self as the universe. The grand view is boundless. In short, voidness, or emptiness, means the absence of duality, the end of accepting and rejecting. There are 5 categories of voidness. The obstinate void, the annihilation void, the void of analysis, the void of global comprehension, the void of true supramundane existence. What is the obstinate void? It is just clinging to the space in front of us. What is the annihilation void? It is the kind grasped by those on the heterodox, or outer, path. It embraces the views that historically abounded in India as well as those assorted philosophical positions based on cognitive patterns which neglect the Buddhist axiom stating that all is generated by the mind. Such beliefs claim, in effect, that there is existence beyond one's cognitive realm and that is where the dharmas are. Heading full speed into large-scale confusion, the supporters of such views erroneously choose to grasp that void, positing it as the prevalent characteristic of existence. The remaining 3 kinds of voidness are introspectively oriented Buddha Dharma and constitute the Dharma of voidness, or emptiness, as the true nature of the mind, in contrast with the teaching of the lesser vehicle that focuses on the form skandha. The supramundane path of the lesser vehicle, Theravada, and that of Sravakas and Bodhisattvas of the great vehicle, Mahayana, are rooted in the aforementioned last three kinds of voidness. They are neither the obstinate void of worldlings nor the annihilating voidness of the outer, or heterodox, path. The concept, or doctrine, of voidness is sometimes called either the nature of voidness or the theory of nature. The meaning is the same. Now I shall discuss the four subdivisions of the Buddha Dharma according to Tien Tai and the three kinds of voidness relevant to Buddha Dharma as they are understood and applied in each of the four subdivisions, to wit. 1. Sangjiao, Theravada teachings based on the Tripitaka. 2. Tungjiao, Theravada and Mahayana interrelated. 3. Baijiao, particular or distinctive Mahayana, characterized as the Bodhisattva path. 4. Yuanjiao, original or complete Mahayana. The mundane path of Theravada does not accommodate the radiant truth at its fullest, although in some cases a Mahayana teaching may be perceived as Theravadin by a practitioner of the lesser vehicle. The mundane path is grounded in the minute analysis of form dharma, rupa, and mind dharma, nama, and how their interaction contributes to the illusion of a separate ego. The term dharma may be interpreted as meaning things, methods, formulas or standards. Form is distinguished through shape and color, mind through its function of knowing. Our body is composed of four elements, i.e., earth, water, fire and air, which, respectively, have the character of solidity, viscosity, temperature and vibration. The body is merely a mass of matter that does not possess the faculty of knowing an object. Also, matter changes under physical conditions, and because of this feature it is called form. The element of earth is like the body, complete with skin, flesh, tendons and bones, which all have weight as well as softness and hardness. The element of water includes all bodily liquids, as well as all that relates to fluidity and viscosity. The element of fire covers temperature in terms of heat in varying degrees of intensity from the highest down to the absence of heat. The element of air manifests as vibration in terms of movement. The body also manifests the three characteristics of existence, i.e., impermanence, unsatisfactory conditions and the absence of selfhood. Illness and death are caused by an imbalance of the elements or their scarcity or absence, according to the Theravada teaching. Birth and death are the natural results of the bodies being compounded from these four elements. What is mind? Mind is knowing without form. What is form? Form is shape without the capacity of knowing. Uninstructed worldlings view the physical body, form, actually a collection of elements, as the self or ego and, therefore, cannot leave the ocean of birth and death. Deeply confused about truth, they feel oppressed because of wrong views. The only correct way to put it is to say, this body is just my body, the mind is my real self. The knowing consciousness is the master, the body is only a slave. Let us consider, for example, someone who, though interested in attending this lecture, initially did not want to make the effort because of feeling tired. Then the following thought arose. Hearing the commentary on that sutra will increase my wisdom and reduce my defilement, I must go and listen to the Dharma. Having persuaded oneself, he or she got on the bus and came here to hear this Dharma. Where did the initiative originate? Clearly, it originated in the mind. Again, the mind is the master, and the body is the slave. Unfortunately, a person of mundane concerns is very confused, mistaking the slave for the master, and, consequently, there is birth and death. To perceive the brilliant Dharma is to enlighten the mind to itself, and originally the mind has neither birth nor death. Although the body dies and vanishes, the mind is imperishable and indestructible. Understanding this experientially marks the end of the cyclic pattern of existence, the exit from the ocean of suffering. Mind is seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching and knowing. The six natures, or capacities, of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching and knowing, are the nature of the mind. The Buddha spoke Dharma on numberless occasions for 49 years. All of his teachings were expedient means, and all his explanations and discourses were delivered for the purpose of helping sentient beings to be freed from attachment and delusion, and to return to the truth. He dealt predominantly with two dharmas, form and mind. According to the teaching later formulated as the lesser vehicle, form and mind are two. The practitioner should know the mind while not abandoning the form, body. Where does the mind dwell? According to physiology, the heart is also the mind's organ, but efforts to prove it have been inconclusive so far. According to some religions, the mind resides in the brain, however, all attempts to find adequate proof to support such a theory have proved, again, negative. Whenever people have tried to find the very source in order to pinpoint the exact site where the mind is, the results were nil in each and every case. Since mind is neither form nor name, in the context of Buddha Dharma, it is expediently termed emptiness, or voidness, śūnyatā in Sanskrit. On a particular day, represented for us by the 8th of December, while he was absorbed in deep samadhi, Sakyamuni attained complete enlightenment. Noticing the bright morning star in the eastern sky, he observed that the nature of seeing can be a kind of connecting. He realized that his own nature of seeing was boundless, and his first statement following his enlightenment was as follows. Wonderful, wonderful. All sentient beings have the same wisdom and virtue as the Tathagata, but because of the obstacles of illusion and grasping, they cannot attain. The expression sentient beings means produced by and composed of many, not being just a separate one. The human body, for example, appears to be of one piece, yet it is composed of many concealed parts, such as the heart, liver, kidneys, spleen, lungs, the pores, and even some parasites. This means that a person, seemingly an individual entity, is also composed of many sentient beings. To reiterate, the Buddha's view was that all sentient beings have the same virtue and the same wisdom as the Tathagata, the pure luminous virtue of the Dharmadhatu. However, sentient beings are confused, do not return to their original nature, and do not purify themselves to attain the Dharmakaya, and, therefore, they are called sentient beings to designate their difference from the Buddhas. Sakyamuni, glimpsing a star in the endless reaches of the eastern sky, realized the infinite nature of mind and achieved enlightenment instantaneously, and the Bodhisattva of Avalokitesvara practiced the three kinds of wisdom of the instructed ones, meditated on sound, and attained the stage of Bodhi. When all conditions are generated by one's own mind, that is the original mind. The ordinary person of mundane concerns looks at an object and considers that seeing, and from that moment on adheres to the view that a table is a table, a person is a person, taking the object as the evidence of seeing, he or she fails to realize its object. This view prevents one from being able to abandon both subject and object, dualism, so how can one ever understand or experience original seeing? One twists the process of experience to fit his or her own concept of reality, intensifying the delusion. To perceive one's original nature as shapeless and formless is to perceive the true void. People's potentials are dissimilar. Whoever can understand his or her original nature is clear-eyed, while anyone who focuses on the object of seeing and grasps its form is caught in turbidity. Practitioners of the method promulgated by the lesser vehicle perceive mind as mind, form as form, and conceive of them as distinct and different. This method focuses on observing the observer. The connection with one's own nature is apparently not taken into consideration. This method asserts the following. Seeing is the nature of the eye organ, hearing is the nature of the ear organ, smelling is the nature of the nose organ, tasting is the nature of the tongue organ, touching is the nature of the body, and knowing is the nature of the mind. If the practice is based on this point of view, only partial void can be attained, but it can also be termed enlightenment according to Buddhist understanding. Furthermore, followers of Theravada hold that clothing, nourishment and lodging are deemed to result from conditioning causes and, thus, are not the concern of full-time practitioners who supposedly have surpassed worldlings and, therefore, are viewed as holy by the devotees sharing this tradition. The Bodhisattva of Avalokitesvara attained enlightenment by perceiving his original nature, that is, he abandoned the duality inherent in subject and object, whereupon he attained the middle way perfectly and completely. Such is the pure, radiant Dharmakaya, which is quite different from the accomplishments in the tradition of the lesser vehicle. At one point in history, 1,255 disciples of the Buddha became arhats. Nonetheless, their attainment was not exhaustive regarding the ultimate truth, but merely the end of the birth-hand death allotment. The study and practice of the Bodhisattva path was their opportunity for expanding their practice by following the example of Bodhisattva of Avalokitesvara. Comprehension of the immaterial substance of reality marks the intermediate level of the Bodhisattva's career, and it is sometimes referred to as the first gate of Mahayana and of the middle vehicle. It is considered to be a higher doctrinal accomplishment than that of the lesser vehicle. At the intermediate level, the void of the five skandhas is attained and, accordingly, obstinate view is abandoned. Thus, the immaterial substance of reality is perceived, but perception of the five skandhas as the superb existence is still lacking. Also, we should note, it is not actually necessary to abandon the body after the attainment of the void. Everyone has form, body, and knowing. Having attained the void does not mean one has to endeavor to abandon the body. Voidness means simply the absence of grasping. True existence is emptiness not of this world. The complete perfect meaning of true existence is the supramundane void, containing neither partial existence nor partial void. It is the middle way, also known as the ultimate reality. In short, a mind that does not discriminate by means of craving and clinging is the mind that understands the meaning of. Not of this world, though non-existent, it is the true existence. There is no void, yet it is the supramundane precondite emptiness. The Bodhisattva of Avalokitesvara, in his great wisdom, does not allow his mind to discriminate. Seeing is seeing, hearing is hearing, smelling is smelling, tasting is tasting, knowing is knowing, understanding is understanding. The six organs do not dwell on the six types of data. Enlightened by means of perceiving the sound of the tide, he comprehended the nature of hearing as non-abiding, and mind freed of grasping attains the wonderful dharma of the inconceivable. This, then, is the true existence of the supramundane void. Thus, he overcame all ills and suffering. He perceived that all 5 skandhas are void, thereby transcending all suffering. Of suffering, there are 2 kinds. The suffering of the birth and death allotment, the suffering of the birth and death realms mortal changes. All ills and defilements mean suffering. According to the usual interpretation of the teachings, when it is fully understood that all 5 skandhas are empty, then the 5 fundamental conditions creating passion and delusion are severed, and 2 kinds of birth and death are finished. What are the 5 fundamental conditions creating passion and delusion? They are as follows. 1. Wrong view. Which is very common in the Triloka, 3 realms. 2. Clinging, or attachment, in the realm of desire. 3. Clinging, or attachment, in the realm of form. 4. Clinging, or attachment, in the formless realm. 5. The state of non-enlightenment, or ignorance, in the Triloka, held to be the source of all the distress-generating delusions. The 5 fundamental conditions creating passion and delusion depend on the 5 skandhas for their existence, and when the skandhas are found to be empty, the 5 fundamental conditions characterizing passion and delusion vanish. Everyone is equipped with the 5 skandhas, but those uninstructed in Buddha Dharma cannot eradicate the 5 fundamental conditions giving rise to passion and delusion because they are unaware that they are originated by and dwell in the mind. Such being the case, sentient beings have no other choice but to endure suffering in the present and turn endlessly in the cyclic pattern of existence until they recognize the cause of their suffering and enter the path to enlightenment. What are the wrong views common in the Triloka that give rise to defilement? To see the object, to be confused by the object, and to give rise to greed as the result of that confusion, are the root of defilement. Let us suppose that someone meets a wealthy, influential, high-ranking official and thereafter becomes consumed with envy, greed and jealousy. However, being useless, these emotions do not help one attain what one wants. Greed becomes entrenched in the mind and, as such, is very difficult to extirpate. Defilements of this kind are quite common. However, we should understand that those unexpectedly promoted are becoming prosperous, those finding themselves in humble circumstances are destitute, those who enjoy a long life or those who die young, and even the smart or the dull ones are all in that situation, due to the law of cause and effect. Good causes in previous lives will produce good effects in the present. Good causes in the present will produce favorable effects in the future. The law of cause and effect is all-pervasive, excluding nothing and no one. The practice of this dharma and the understanding of obstinate void sever 88 wrong views in the 3 realms, Triloka, and lead to the attainment of the fruit of the first stage, i.e., stream enter. What is meant by attachment in the realm of desire? To recognize greed as objectionable and to relinquish it is expedient and noble. Not to see the object, not to give rise to clinging, and not to be moved by outside things leads to the great liberation. Poverty, wealth, success and failure can all be endured. The next rebirth will be in the heavenly realm of desire, and when one's blessings run out in that realm, one will be reborn as a human being. That cycle will be repeated 4 times, and then the fruit of the second stage will be attained, that of once returner. One more rebirth is required to attain the fruit of the 3rd stage, that of non-returner, which means the end of all delusion in the realm of desire. But the cessation of all desire at all the levels in all 3 realms, the 4th stage and its fruit are attained, that of the Arhat, or saint. In the realm of desire, 6 planes of existence are generated by worldlings giving in to the attractions of the senses. What is meant by attachment in the realm of form? Those who have freed themselves from wrong views and clinging but still hold on to the analysis of the theory of voidness will be reborn in the realm of form, which consists of the 4 meditation, dhyana, heavens, which are further subdivided into 18 heavens, according to the depth of absorption. Each dhyana dissolves 9 kinds of illusory thought, which means that 36 illusory thoughts are brought to a halt by the 4 dhyanas. If the one reborn in the realm of form still has a form body, it would not be that of a woman. Those reborn in that realm have the form body of a man. It is also called the Brahmasphere because the beings there have renounced sense desires and delight only in meditation and dhyanic bliss. For this reason we speak of attachment in the realm of form. The beings in that realm have all their necessities of existence attended to without any effort. The realm of form is beyond the reach of ordinary people of mundane concerns. The nourishment in the triple realm is of 4 kinds. Solid nourishment, especially of the palatable variety, fragrant nourishment, the nourishment of delight in dhyana, the nourishment of delight in the dharma. The first kind, or solid nourishment, is the same as what is eaten every day in the manner of human beings, etc., on the 6 paths of the realm of desire. The second kind, fragrant nourishment, sustains devas, heaven dwellers, in the realm of form. The nourishment of delight in dhyana and the dharma is for those in the realm of formlessness. What is attachment in the realm of formlessness? When wrong view with its concomitant grasping no longer contaminates the realm of desire and the realm of form, then rebirth in the realm of formlessness follows. That sphere is free from form, body, there is only the knowing consciousness, and, therefore, we speak of clinging to the realm of formlessness. However, denizens of that realm are no longer preoccupied with matter or material. Only the dhyanas and the dharma are their repast and their bliss. The realm of formlessness is divided into the following: attainment and meditation on the void, attainment and meditation on consciousness, attainment and meditation on nothingness, and attainment leading to a state of neither perception nor non-perception. Consider for a moment the difference between a dharma talk offered by an arhat and that given by someone of lower attainment. In the latter case, the attachment to the realm of formlessness still manifests itself. Vast differences are noticeable when the two traditions, namely, the Theravada and the Mahayana, are viewed in juxtaposition. Why? Because meditation, according to the Theravada, does not single out wisdom. However, the 5 fundamental conditions of passion and delusion require the practice of both action and principle and equate meditation with wisdom, according to the Mahayana, which is not comparable to the realm of form and the realm of formlessness. Even the third stage of liberation, according to the Theravada, i.e., that of the non-returner, does not imply liberation from the 3 realms. Thank you for listening. This is the end of this video. As you already know, the Buddha always emphasized the importance of generosity supporting the spread of the Dharma for spiritual growth. We can cultivate this virtue in our digital age. By subscribing, liking, and sharing our channel, you're supporting the dissemination of valuable teachings, much like the Sangha was supported in the past. Your engagement accumulates positive karma for you and helps make the Dharma accessible to a wider audience, a meritorious act indeed. Let's do this with pure intentions, free from attachment and selfishness, fostering a sense of community and supporting our own spiritual journey. These principles, rooted in Buddhist ethics, continue to guide us. You will receive great blessings for supporting the propagation of Buddha's teachings in a very simple way. By subscribing, liking, and sharing to help spreading the Buddha teaching to all human beings. Wishing you and your family always have a peaceful and happy life.